everybody, and welcome to Brain Balance Live with Heather Wells. My name is Corey, and I am a Brain Balance dad, a proud Brain Balance dad. And with me, I have always Heather Wells, board-certified cognitive specialist. I also have a National Autism Summit speaker in our presence, and of course, a licensed therapist. So, Heather, welcome. How are you doing today? How's everything going?
Oh, it's going really well. I'm enjoying the pool time. And you said you've been swimming a lot too, huh?
I have. I had a back injury recently, and so I've really been focusing on kind of like self-rehab. I looked into, the shots and all this other kind of stuff, and it just didn't feel right to me. It wasn't my personal path, so I kind of just started moving a lot more and moving the right way and training a different way than I've always trained, and it's working for me. And boy, oh boy, I know personally too. Just back injuries are just so difficult, and my heart goes out to anybody that's dealing with that. And I hope that you are as lucky as I was, where you don't have to have that procedure. But, hey, who knows? We're all just trying to get by. And I think that, again, I consider myself very, very fortunate that it wasn't as intense as some other folks that I know.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Well, I'm glad you have you're persevering. You're like, I'm going to find another way.
Yeah.
So that's really admirable.
It's trying. It's funny. It hurts. It hurts a little bit when you're doing certain things, but it's a good hurt, not a bad hurt. And it's not an injury hurt. I've got to retrain my body to work the way that I need it to in my 40s, because I am in my 40s. So it's different than training in your 30s, and definitely different than training in your 20s. But let's talk about our subject today, because I talked to you a little bit before the show, and we talked about the fact that, we can get frustrated when we feel like our kids don't hear some of the things that we say. And the real question that we hope that you understand or get answered by the end of this episode is, are they hearing you? Are there things that you can do to help them hear you the way that they need to hear you? Because I think that oftentimes we say things in a way that we understand, but it might not be the same for our kids. And with that, we are talking about something that we might even say, folks, you might have even said this yourselves. I've told you this 100 times, right? And maybe you've said that. If you have said that, let us know in the comments. But I'm going to pull up the slides for you, Heather, whenever you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready. Well, yeah, let's dive on in.
All right.
So we're going to talk about about 7, 8 of the top things that get in the way of kids following instruction or responding the way we need them to, or accepting feedback. And one of those, as you just said, is the way we deliver the message. And so and this one also involves language, which is one of the top problems that we can run into. Stop being disrespectful. Number one, I put an exclamation point there. And so maybe there is frustration coming out. Parents, you have a right to be frustrated. It gets old. We have been through this so many times. But just as a reminder, when we escalate, kids they co-regulate with us. If we're calm, we help them be more calm. Sometimes, I know, if they have certain neurodevelopmental struggles, you're like, I wish. But also, for sure, if we escalate, we're going to escalate them more. We must be the calm in their storm. So that's part of the issue with the message delivery here. The other thing is, she's telling her kid what not to do. Stop, don't be disrespectful, or stop being disrespectful. We're emphasizing the word disrespectful. We want to use pro-social terms. Tell them what we do want instead of what we do not want them to do. Yeah. Because that's the part that sticks. And here's the other thing. This little guy's saying, what does disrespectful mean? And it doesn't mean that kids will say this out loud. This is kind of a thought bubble going on with him. I don't even know what respect means, much less disrespectful. And so we need to make sure that the words we're using, they know what they mean. A lot of these words are abstract when we're talking about kindness, respect. And so a good replacement for respect is to say respect means to care about something. And then you want to give specific examples. We show respect by, and then you can talk about what it looks like to speak respectfully to someone else. You can give examples of, we also want to respect our belongings. That they cost money, and we respect our parents for working hard and getting us these things, and we want to take care of these items. But give them concrete examples so that we can make this abstract concept much more concrete for them. So that's number one. Be calm. Tell them what you do want them to do, not what you do not want them to do, and make sure the words we're using. And I have seen these kinds of words, treat others with respect, in preschool classrooms, like posted on the wall. That's okay as long as you define the words and make sure kids understand. But we cannot assume they understand what that means.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's wonderful. I mean, we hear all the time, like, don't speak to me that way, right? Like, and it's not, don't speak to me that way. It's, it might, is this acceptable, Heather? You talk about what you're hearing. I'm hearing that you're frustrated. I'm hearing that you're upset. And when you're upset, it's very easy to think that screaming is something that you need to do. And I understand that feeling. However, we love each other, right? I love you, you love me. And when we love each other, sometimes we have to go that extra step and recognize that we're upset. We might need to take a break right now, but let's speak to each other out of love, and let's speak to each other out of kindness. And I think that could go, I want you to tell me if I said that right. And if I know that it's better than don't you speak to me that way, right?
Right. Yes. When we did I think it was probably maybe it was on the unintentional shaming show. I don't know. We do a lot of shows about helping kids work through anger, not shaming them unintentionally, things like that. And using I statements. When we do that, we are teaching kids assertiveness and boundaries. I think I did it on the boundary show. That's what it was. We're teaching them boundaries. They have to see us respecting our boundaries, and we're also teaching them how to set up some of their own. And that is assertive, not aggression. Aggression is I'm looking out for my welfare. It doesn't matter what happens to someone else. When I say I see, I notice, I feel, I hear, I am speaking for myself. I am not imposing something upon you. And then I see that you kind of shunned me in front of Jason yesterday. That I felt blah, blah, blah when that happened. Would you please? And then you can make a request. But yes, I statements are, instead of you, that sounds very blaming. When we say we are owning our own feelings. We're saying you're not responsible for my feelings. I'm not responsible for yours. We each have a right to our feelings. But as you said, we love and respect one another. And we are going to speak to each other in that way. And yes, taking a break is always good. And sometimes kids need a longer break than the parent. And we got to keep that in mind as well. But when we do that, we got to be careful about it feeling like a time in, not a time out. There's a lot of research about, we might say, go to your room until you can cool off. That can be okay in certain circumstances, but keep in mind that a lot of kids will misinterpret that and think, if I do something that someone doesn't like, they shun me. Right. They push me away. Then it's okay when kids at school treat me that way. It's okay for me to do that to someone else. They might learn passive aggression and silent treatment when that is not at all the purpose behind you saying that. So keep all of that in mind. Okay. And, but yeah, I love what you said. It was so perfect. I need to clone you.
I'm just trying. I can't even say, like, parents watching right now, like, I am not, God's gift to parenting. I just like to say that I continue to strive to be the best that I can. And I'm not perfect in any way, shape, or form.
And I have said this several times on this show that a lot of it, just because I know something to be true doesn't mean I always nailed it with my kids at home. I look back and say, I'm like, man, I blew that. We do our best. And when we know more, we do better. And we're human beings. We must show ourselves grace just like we show our kids grace. So none of this is about shaming parents either. If you're frustrated, if you lose it sometimes, that's going to happen from time to time. But watch, I'm about to lose it with my kids show from a week or two ago to get some tips on that. None of this is shaming, and none of us is going to do all of these things perfectly. That's just not even possible. But these are guidelines.
Oh, yeah. And I've got a real life example yesterday. I'll share this with you a little bit later in the show as we keep going. So
okay,
feel free. Next slide.
Okay. This is one of the ones that I think gets missed a lot. So, Corey, do you want to read what's in the turquoise bubble there?
Go out of the garage and bring in a case of water between the fridge and the workbench. Then run upstairs and grab the dirty clothes behind to the left of the bathroom door and put them in the middle laundry basket downstairs. Also, I want you to make sure your book report is on top of all of the papers on my desk in the study so I can look over it. Do you understand what I just said?
And do you see what this teen is saying? His thought is like, what? And I've got the little frog with mind blown. Okay. So I think it's evident that we just threw a whole lot at this kid, right? I mean, that part's evident. And we got to be careful about multi-step instructions. If your kids are having trouble hanging on to those, then we need to chunk it down, and maybe it needs to be one at a time. We need to take care of the underlying cause of why they're having difficulty handling that. But in the meantime, breaking it down and setting them up for success. But how many directional words are in this direction? And how many different rooms are involved? Go out to the garage, bring in the case, run upstairs, dirty clothes, behind and to the left, in the middle laundry basket, on top of the papers. There are so many directional words. You might say, so what? This kid is smart. He's an A+ student or AB honor roll. His vocabulary is fantastic. Yeah. When kids struggle with equilibrium and body awareness, two parts of our sensory system that help us understand where we are in space, among other things, they often have difficulty with spatial concepts. We work with a lot of high school students who can talk to you about politics. They can talk to you about news stories on a very deep level, very, very articulate. But then when we ask them to put their right hand on their left knee, that's directional. Or so make note, when you're giving kids instructions, do they involve multiple rooms? Do they involve a lot of beside, between, underneath, over, below? Because even if kids technically know what those words mean, that would be very similar to if they speak English only, speaking to them in Farsi.
Right.
Anything that makes my brain work harder, there are so many words in there that don't come as automatically for me as some other words. That is frustrating, and you're eating up my cognitive load right now. And now I don't even know where to begin, so maybe I've done it all. Look at this little maze above his head. I'm supposed to do what, and this and there and over there. Spatial. So if your kids, and I think one of the most overlooked things, one of the things that shocks our parents the most when they come in for assessment is when they find out their kids have equilibrium issues. They're like, they're not falling over, they're very athletic. It doesn't mean that they're falling over necessarily. They might be clumsy, they might walk on their toes, but we're talking about your internal sense of being upright and balanced. 68% of students who are struggling have confirmed equilibrium issues, and that doesn't count the ones that haven't been tested for it. It's a sneaky little thing. You can be athletic and still have internal bearings issues that are very tied to anxiety, decreased attention, social withdrawal, and other things. So if you're at movement, spinning, swinging, as far as body awareness, really feeling grounded in your body, it's very good to lift, push, pull, anything where you're pushing or pulling against weight or resistance grows body awareness. But break it down. And this comes in with language, because maybe they have fantastic language, but the directional words aren't as easy. Is there a pattern of when it involves a lot of directional words? That's where the breakdown is. Log these things so you can figure out what's getting in the way for your particular kids. Okay, let's move on.
Next.
All right, I think this one does not get overlooked in terms of, oh yeah, I think my child has auditory processing struggles. However, there are parts of auditory processing that are not nearly as obvious as some others. It's not just about kind of having slow auditory processing, having trouble keeping up with those multi-step instructions. A lot of kids have difficulty filtering sound. If they try to listen to you when you're talking to them, all the sound in the room goes up as a unit. And guess what? Now that knocking, that bird, that dog barking outside becomes a distraction. Who's knocking? Is somebody kicking their foot? I hear crinkling paper. What's going on over there? Auditory processing issues often get misdiagnosed as ADHD. You can have both. Do they have distractibility issues across the board, or is it more with auditory input? But we need to set them up for success. We need to, as much as possible, make sure we're talking to them in a quiet environment if they have that issue. We also need to take care of the root cause of the issue. Sometimes you're tuned out because kids are either under-responsive or over-responsive to sound. If they have sound sensitivity, not all kids cover their ears with sound sensitivity. They may mentally, they may have only one volume dial because that everything goes up as a unit. I'm up to my threshold. I can't take it anymore. I'm getting really frustrated. I'm going to turn the volume to 0. The extraneous sound goes down, but so does your voice. Or they are under responsive, the opposite of the kids who are sensitive to it. You're talking to them, you're raising your voice, and it's like it's not even registering. You can be under modulated to the auditory input. So then you might need to give visual cues, get in front of them, make sure they know you're talking to them. Use gestures to help. A lot of times kids will miss pitch changes and other ways we vary our voice, volume, pitch, intonation, pauses, all the different patterns that we do that emote or that emphasize a certain point. And then they will think you're talking to them really monotone. And a lot of these kids will register monotone as you're mad at me or what's wrong? Mom, are you okay? Dad, what's got you feeling down right now? Monotone, if you are monotone, they may read that as anger and then they start feeling rejected. We did a rejection sensitivity show. Or you are using prosody and inflection and they're missing those cues. We have so many elements beyond the words themselves that give meaning to what we're saying. Misinterpreting the rhythm, pause, and stress patterns. So they might miss it or they might misinterpret it. So here's an example. This mom she's trying to bring in the groceries from the car, sister's crying, and she tells her older son, please console your sister. What does he hear? Because he has trouble with stress patterns. Console. Game console. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll go play games. Sure. That gets me out of your way while you unload the groceries. Or yeah, I'll let me. Not what I said, son. Think of how many words, which syllable you stress changes the meaning of it, right? Like converse, converse. The teacher says, I want you to write the converse opinion of what the author wrote with supporting details. It's time to converse. Now I start talking to my friend. This sounds made up. This really happens. This is a rhythm issue that gets in the way of understanding. And even if they can eventually get there and use context, a lot of our kids have trouble with context. You've already given them 2 more instructions by then, and they're still back reconfiguring console versus console, converse versus converse.
Yeah.
Okay. So this happens all the time. Or write a paper, like write a fiction story about the cargo on the ship in the story we just read about. Oh, I get to write about a car going really fast. I like cars. This is going to be fun. You didn't follow the instructions. And then you get a bad grade. Cargo, car, go. The pause changes the meaning. These are just a couple of examples. How many of these words, pauses, emphasis patterns, intonation, all those things that are a question versus a statement. And I miss that your voice went up or it went down. Statement, question. I asked you a question. Oh, I thought you were just telling me something. I didn't know I was supposed to respond. All of these are examples of auditory processing issues that get talked about a lot less. Something really good to do here is to play rhythm games. Like you can make a drum out of anything, cans, boxes, cardboard boxes. Those may not grate on your nerves as much. And you drum a beat with different emphasis patterns, and then they drum it back. They drum a beat, you drum it back. All kinds of rhythm and timing games will grow this. And guess what? This is the same part of the brain where we grow time management. Another reason a lot of kids, they meant to follow the instruction and oops, time ran out. They have time blindness. When you are working on rhythm and timing, you are growing auditory processing as well as time management, time awareness, and organization to get it done. All right, let's move on. I'm trying to tell you about some of the things that get talked about less, as you might have noticed by now.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Okay, now working memory. You have heard me mention this on various shows because a lot of experts actually in attention deficits with or without the diagnosis of ADHD, a lot of experts are now saying that ADHD is a disorder of working memory because you have to have working memory in order to attend. Working memory is one of the top tier CEO skills of our brain. We've got impulse control, working memory, and cognitive flexibility. This is a top tier skill from which a lot of other memories form, from which a lot of reasoning and organization, time management, prioritizing comes. Working memory is a mental sketch pad. Notice that on the left, there's this guy getting all kinds of sensory input. Working memory requires our sensory information being accurate big time. If I'm oblivious to sound or any sort of sensory input, if I'm misinterpreting it, I am taking in faulty information. If I get overwhelmed with it, I don't remember that part because I had to just tune it out. Whether it's visual or auditory, it goes into my brain. I'm holding pieces of information on little Post-it notes in my head. I can only hold 5 to 7 things at a time. We can chunk things. Think about a phone number, 817-575, da-da-da. We chunk it. Now that's not 10 digits. Now we can chunk it into 1 or 2 chunks of information. A lot of kids don't know how to put things together, take them apart, but we can only hold 5 to 7 things. So if we are using directional words that are unfamiliar, if they are having body awareness issues and they miss gestures or how we illustrated a point to show them what to do, their sketch pad starts getting filled up with the stuff that they're working this hard at, whereas we just taken it automatically. This is why they can't hold on to stuff. And then I hold information in my head to finish a task, to clean my room, to take care of the laundry, to organize my backpack, to do math, to remember what the previous paragraph said while I read the next one. All of those are examples of using our mental sketch pad. And then, okay, I'm going to need this for later. I'm going to encode it. I'm going to store it in long-term memory so I can retrieve it later. A lot of kids with neurodevelopmental struggles have difficulty storing fleeting pieces of information in long-term memory. And this is when it is the 9th month of school and they still don't know what it means to be ready to walk out the door for school. Yeah. How do you still not know that you have to wear shoes to school? Your pants fall down, you need a belt. Today is soccer practice. Where is your gear? Why do we still need to know that? They are not encoding it into long-term memory, and then they don't have it to retrieve, or even if it is in there, they have difficulty retrieving it. One of the best things you can do is tell them to match the picture. Take a picture of this is what it looks like to be ready to walk out the door for school. Take a picture of a clean bedroom, match the picture. Take a picture of an organized backpack. This is what it looks like to have an organized backpack. Match the picture. What research shows us, what you're doing is you're clearing space in working memory. They're not having to struggle with all the pieces. There it is. I just match it. And they start realizing, oh, the big picture is being ready for school. All of these details, brush my teeth, wash my face, put on my clothes and my shoes, grab all my gear, my lunch bag. Those are the details that go into being ready for school. That understanding translates into other things. You will save yourself a lot of grief by telling them to match the picture.
Yeah, I love that. Cleaning your room too. Same thing. You've told me that before. Yes. You take a picture of the clean room and you say, I need the room to look like this. And
yes.
It's great. It's great.
And another way we clear up working memory space is getting rid of distractions. Any attention I'm giving to a distraction is eating up space on my Post-it notes. Now I don't have as much room for what you're saying. Use a cue to ensure that you have their attention before you start talking to them. That is going to alleviate a lot of frustration for both of you and set them up for success. It could be, okay, put on your thinking cap, or it could be a silly word. It could be a countdown. It could be one phrase from a favorite song, and make sure you have their attention. And it's not always best to say, look at me. And that is counterintuitive. A lot of kids have visual perception issues or auditory processing struggles. And if those aren't working together, I'm listening to your words and looking at your face and it's glitching. Those two sensory inputs are not going together. Some kids can pay attention better by walking around the room. They're getting proprioception, they're getting body awareness input into the bottom of their feet that improves focus. So look at me, not necessarily, but have a cue that you plan ahead and they know that when they hear that, it means you're about to give an instruction. Let them know, I'm about to give you 3 important details to remember. And then give them the instruction, have them repeat it back. What did you hear? In their own words. A lot of times, spouses can do this too. We can spout off verbatim what our spouse said. We can spout off what our parents said. Do we understand it? Quoting something back and actually understanding the intent behind the words are 2 different things. When I repeat it back, you can see where any understanding breakdowns are.
Yeah.
But give small chunks, slow it down to the pace they need. Yeah. Ask what they heard. These are just some of the examples. And then as far as growing working, these are things to help get you by and save a whole lot of stress and frustration. How do we grow working memory? There are so many fun ways to do it. Summer is a great time to do these. You know, the game where I went to the beach and I took my swimsuit. And then Corey says, I went to the beach, and he repeats what I said, and then he adds one. I went to the beach and I took my swimsuit and a water bottle. And then I repeat what I said, what he said, and then I add something. Yeah. You're growing working memory doing that. You can play games where you have certain objects on the table, have them study them, look away, you take one away, what's missing? All of these are just examples of ways to grow. Any memory games are good. Play Simon Says, except each time you add another step, and then you're getting a physical activity too.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, I'm bringing the slides back. Here we go. Boom. Ooh,
okay,
it's a big one. Yep.
Yeah. And what is the difference between criticism and feedback? Emotional regulation comes into play big time here. By the way, when we talk about regulation, that is not just managing my emotions well. It also is impulse control. It also is distractibility. If I am regulated, I can ignore distractions and hone in on what you're saying. If I am not regulated, I give in. What was that? What was that? What was that? So work on impulse control games. Watch the emotional regulation shows we've done also. When kids are dysregulated, the information you're saying will not penetrate. It will not make it to the language processing centers. They will not be able to reason through and plan the steps and take care of it. So rejection sensitivity, where real or perceived rejection is debilitating. We've looked at a lot of things where kids will misperceive rejection that is not there. They may misread your facial expression, misread your tone of voice. Not when you're telling them to be respectful, they don't even realize how they sound because of that auditory processing issue. But criticism is solely about what is not up to par. And often we tend to deliver this with irritation, frustration, disapproval, blame, you, kind of back to what we started with. I've told you this over and over. That is a shaming statement. Yes, you have. And yes, you have a right to be frustrated. But what kids hear when you say that often will be, I'm dumb. I can't do this. I'm a bad listener. I'm defiant. I refuse to do it. Whatever the words we're saying, they will internalize it and label themselves with negative personality or character labels. That is the last thing we want. You're struggling with this right now. You're just not there yet. Growth mindset all the time. Your room isn't clean until all your clothes are hung up or in the hamper. I've told you this over and over. Feedback sandwiches teaching. Feedback is for teaching, for growth, for learning. Between positive observations, and the observations can be about effort or progress and intention. It's not just when it's done 100%. Your books are so organized. I see you haven't picked up your clothes yet. The floor is much cleaner now. Keep going. Positive feedback, positive. It is not an utter failure. You just gave them 2 positives and you didn't say, I told you over and over that you also have to pick up your clothes. You just pointed it out. You stuck with the facts. That is the difference. When we give feedback, kids don't feel blamed and shamed, and they are much less likely to be dismissive. And by the way, if you've been doing some unintentional shaming, blaming stuff, it's nobody's intent. We know that. And you're switching gears. Don't know that the first time you do this, it doesn't mean that kids are going to respond positively. It's going to take a while, but keep going. And they start realizing, hey, this kind of new mode of us communicating is sticking. And it will come with time. Last week, we talked about negativity bias. It takes longer to get rid of that, but we can do it. Okay.
All right. Next slide. And I've got a real story to share with you after this.
Yes. Okay. So this is a summary of some of the top things that cause kids to not follow directions, not listen, or not maybe take feedback very well. We talked about the dysregulation, impulsivity. Language gaps. Remember, make sure they know the words in the instructions, what they mean. And that can be directional words. It can be words like respect, kindness, abstract words like that. Auditory processing. It is not just about needing to repeat instructions or multi-step. Do they get the rhythm, the timing, the emotion behind it? Whether it was a question or a statement, the pauses. All of those carry meaning. Do rhythm and timing games. Distractibility, that can be from auditory, it can be from dysregulation. The way we deliver the message, we want to focus on the facts at hand and not blaming, not you didn't do this. I noticed this happen. And then what can I do to help? What do you think would help you be more successful with this? Working memory, grow that working memory. That is foundational for attention. By the way, working memory is so important. In fact, I should probably do an entire show just on working memory. By pre-K, working memory is one of the strongest predictors of literacy outcomes. And by age 10, it is a stronger predictor of academic success than IQ. Spatial confusion, body awareness, equilibrium, push, pull, lift, stir, cleaning, all of those are growing body awareness. Swinging, jumping on a trampoline, time management. When you work on the rhythm and timing things, you're growing time awareness instead of time blindness. Another really good thing to do this summer, so that kids, I meant to do it and I ran out of time. Have them do a chore and estimate how long they think it will take, then pay attention to how long it took, and then have a conversation. How long did you think it would take? How long did it actually take? So what does that tell you about next time? You are growing time awareness that they can take with them into the next school year. Another thing is, when kids have time blindness, it leads to a lot of issues, transitions. Time doesn't make sense to me. I don't have an internal clock. So I'm going to be rigid. I know what I want, when I want, how I want it. And when curveballs happen, it is not okay. This is more than just following directions. Also, it's task avoidance. I look at a worksheet and I think it could take 20 hours. That's overwhelming. I'm not going to do it. You look at it, no, it's about 20 minutes. Motivation. What is in it for them? Yes, they need to do it because out of respect and because you told them to, but we want to grow agency. We want to grow intrinsic motivation. I get why this is core to who I am. Maybe this chore isn't the best, but it's really cool that I'm a responsible contributor to this family. That is one of the most important parts of connection and belonging, which is foundational for mental health. What is in it for them? When you do this, you're showing me that you're growing in responsibility. And that means XYZ. Connect dots on things they do care about.
Is it okay if I share my real life story here?
Yes.
So Roger, my son, pushed a kid the other day at camp. This kid was spraying suntan lotion in the air. It got in Roger's eyes. He pushed him away. The kid fell to the ground, fell so forcefully that he broke his suntan lotion, fell on his lotion, broke his lotion. The kid was not hurt. Luckily, the parents were not upset. I asked if I could speak to them and apologize. They didn't really care. So it was all good. He wouldn't accept any kind of, the teacher told me away from him, and I asked if she would be comfortable if I spoke to him just to get the full story while she was here. So I put Parker in the car, my other son, and it was just me, Roger, and the teacher. And that was my first mistake. I asked him, what happened? I said, I heard that you put your hands on another student. Can you tell me what happened? Oh, I didn't even touch him that much. He starts denying everything. He didn't. First, he says he didn't even push him. Then he says he only touched him a little bit, stuff like that. And I just reviewed very calmly what we always talk about, which is, we don't put our hands on another human being, right? And we always ask for help if we need it. Did you ask for help? No, I didn't ask for help. He was spraying the stuff in my face. And you took matters into your own hands, and that that's not how we operate. We have to ask for help, right? And so, it didn't really go well. He didn't appreciate that. And when we got in the car, he was very upset. And I just had to, I told him, I love you and I want to talk with you, but right now you're very upset. Let's just take a moment. And at that point, you're on the road. Like, you got to be very careful, because if the kid starts flipping out, he was in the front seat because he's huge human being. It could be very dangerous. So I remained calm. He ended up throwing his water all over the car, stuff like that. So he was raging. And I know that he was probably hurt. And so I'd love for you to answer some of that, because I know that it falls into we told you this 100 times. I didn't say it, but we told you 100 times, keep your hands to yourself, right? Or we don't put our hands on other people, or ask for help. I've told you this 100 times. And it's very scary, Heather, because you're going into school. He starts middle school next year. And it's scary, right? Who knows? I can't be there every second.
Right. Yeah. I don't hear blaming. I don't hear any of the things that we criticism or anything like that in what you shared. We want nobody's hurt, everybody's safe. You start with empathy. Wow, that must have been really frustrating. I bet that made you angry when that suntan lotion got in your eyes. How did you feel when that happened? That would make me mad. I mean, the eyes are burning and then you're burning inside. How did you feel? You've got to start with feelings first, because that is your feelings matter, your welfare. Those are valid all the time, and that comes first.
Yeah.
And then even if he doesn't want to, oh, it's fine. Yeah, I don't think he would have said that. But even if a kid says that, you have opened that window. And you know what? Even if you don't want to talk about it right now, that's okay. About your feelings, we can talk about it later. But just know I'm here. I'm here whenever you're ready to talk. That would have really irritated me. I know it would have.
Yeah.
And then once you get through the emotion, that comes first, since there's not safety involved. That comes first. I have felt heard. I feel supported. I know you love me unconditionally. He already knows that, but I am being reminded of that. And I have vented, and it's giving me time to get out of that startle reflex, where the fight or flight kicks in. When kids are in the fight or flight, it's fight, flight, freeze, or fib. And so now he's fibbing because he's still in the fight or flight response. I didn't touch him that much. And we don't want to argue points. That's right. The lesson isn't about the detail. We want to grow big picture. We want to grow emotional intelligence and empathy. That's not what it's about. So we're not going to argue that he's fibbing, because in that moment he was in fight or flight, not because you shamed him, but because he was in the startle reflex, because he had this sensory thing that set it off.
Yeah.
And so you talk through the feeling. Maybe he needs to get out of fight or flight a little bit and calm before he can even find his words. A lot of times kids are, they can't even find the words for what they want to say. And that's even more frustrating. So give it time. Once that's done, you know what? I would have been mad too. Everybody gets mad. There is nothing wrong with being mad. It's what we do with it that matters.
Yeah.
I know you know this. And what do you think a better way to handle it would have been? You're kind of putting him in control, since you have talked about it, and he is so intelligent and he does know the answers to that. Once he's out of fight or flight, he will resent it less coming from him, and then you applauding him knowing the answer to that.
Yeah.
Then for you, you're telling me again, I know, but you don't understand, And so it's not what you didn't do any shaming. He was in the fight or flight response, and we got to empathize first.
Yeah.
And give that calming time and then talk through it. And he's much less likely to debate the details, which is not what this is about. That is the fibbing thing. Yeah.
It's so hard. I mean, I was proud of myself for staying calm. I didn't blame him.
You did a whole lot great. Yes.
But I mean, I also think that some of my motives were not very good, in the sense that I wanted the teacher to know the type of parent that I was. It was almost very weird. Like, I wanted the teacher to see that I don't yell at my kid. I'm not going to punish my kid. I'm going to talk him through it. And honestly, like it was a teacher, but she was a child. I mean, this was an older teenager. She's probably 18, 19 years old, right? So she probably felt extremely awkward, even though I was totally comfortable and calm, right? And so I think, man, thinking back to that empathy and everything else, I'm like, wow, it could be excellent if I just had empathized with him.
Empathy first, but I have to applaud you, because you did stay calm. You did not do anything shaming. You did not criticize. But you brought up a really good point that I think resonates with a lot of our parents. And we talked last week about the compare and despair and helping kids work through that. But we live in the society where, I mean, so many of our parents, especially if you have this can happen across the board with any parent, but especially if you have kids struggling with neurodevelopmental issues and dysregulation and behavioral things. So many times parents get blamed. If you discipline them more, if you would, people have all the answers with very little of the information. So then often parents will do something so that somebody else doesn't think they're a bad parent. And it's a very human response. and then some of what we know goes out the window. We all do that sometimes. So I'm really glad you shared that. Thank you, because I think what you said is going to mean a lot to families. It's easy for me to say, I know, but I have been in your shoes. Do what's best for your kids, not what is somebody else is going to approve of. You can have a conversation. I mean, Corey and Jen are fantastic parents. I legit, like if I had a clone machine, y'all are two that I'd want to. But parents out there, your kids best, and stay true to that. And other people don't know your journey. They don't know your path the way you do.
Yeah. Yes, it's a struggle, but like I said, we'll keep getting better. We'll keep working on it.
Oh, what you did was great. You just asked for what it didn't go great, what might have made it go better. And I was just throwing a little sprinkle on the sundae. That might have helped a little bit.
Yeah. Anyways. All right, everybody. Well, listen, we're going to take you to the last and very, very important slide. This is going to be slide number 7, which is our final slide. If you are in the Katy, Mansfield, or Woodlands area of Texas and you need some help, this is where you go. You can email them if you're an email person. You can call them if you're a phone call person, or you can check out the Hidden Churn Heather's Facebook page, where we have not only these videos with Dr. Brian Aspey, and also, just reach out. We'd love to just take 15 minutes, talk to you, get to find out what's going on, and really get to the root of the problem with what you're struggling with, what your child's struggling with. It's really a whole family approach. It is not just about your kid. And boy, oh boy, I mean, you guys can hear. I mean, how lucky am I, right? I get to talk to Heather every week, sometimes my wife, So, I mean, we're just so fortunate and so lucky to have this show and also be able to, help you out. Furthermore, Heather, you don't know this yet, but we are making a special landing page where anybody who wants to sign up for your newsletter, we can send you those URLs and you could just sign up directly yourself. You don't have to tell us, hey, add me to the list or whatever. So those landing pages are going to be there. All you got to do is enter your name and email, and we'll just add you to the list of Heather's Help weekly newsletter that goes out. Just tons of great value in there, totally free, just for you. And we're really excited about it. So yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah,
I found out with everybody else. That's awesome.
It's been a long time coming, so we want to make sure that we make it easy. I know a lot of people ask all the time, like, hey, how do I get on that newsletter and stuff? So right now it's only through a Facebook ad because we put it out there saying, hey, we got this free newsletter. But we're going to change it up a little bit and just give you that landing page, and we can share that, of course, on our next episode, hopefully. So life is good.
Aww. That's awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Have a great week. Bye.